All right. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody. See that we're all from different areas of the world, which is fantastic. My name's Laurie. Thank you for joining us at the Sisterhood Collective today. Imposter syndrome is one of those topics that, and one of those feelings that many of us get and have had previously and are likely to face in the future as well. I've certainly had it. I think for every single business that I've started, I've definitely felt the fear. I've definitely had self-doubt. I've questioned myself. What if I did this and no one cared or no one came? I remember when I first started my first gym and I thought, what if I can't coach a person properly, or they don't listen to me, or they know more than I do? But obviously that was 10 years ago, and I obviously got through that. The same thing happened when I opened a coffee shop. The same thing happened for Sisterhood Collective when I started mentoring. Every single time I've had that feeling. But if I sat back and said, what if, and thought about the negative feelings, then I would never have progressed to where we are today. So it's having that confidence and that supportive network that has helped push me and drive me to be where I am today. And also, I guess, have the courage to just take that step forward. So what I've got today is three amazing speakers, and the first one is Em Connors, and she's sitting here in the waiting room. I'm going to unmute you now.
I'm unmuted.
You're unmuted. You did it for me, which is fabulous.
I did it for you.
And I'm just going to pin you. There we go. So we see your pretty face. So I'd like to introduce Em Connors. We've known each other for about 4 years or so from other businesses. And I can see in that time, Em has just absolutely flourished with your business. I think it's absolutely incredible. I look at your stuff every single day, and I think I'm a little bit better just from reading your stuff. So thank you.
You're welcome.
But firstly, I thought we'd just start by asking you a little bit about you. If you could tell us what your business is first.
Yeah, so I run a completely online business. I'm a course creator. So I target female solopreneurs looking to grow their online presence, and I help with branding, Canva, and content creation in general. So I run a couple live courses throughout the year, and then I just have smaller self-paced products as well.
And I've seen that you're in the fashion industry to start with, back in Manhattan, because I did do some digging on you.
Yes. Yeah. So I got my degree in fashion design, and I moved to New York City the next day after I graduated from college. And I got right into fashion PR, or public relations, did that for 2 years. And then I got into apparel production. So I'm a very organized, timely person, but I'm also super creative. So it's sort of a unique set of skills. And the fashion design it was a little too creative, too late nights, all that kind of stuff. But the fashion production, getting the stuff made, being close to the product, the fabrics and the colors, it was enough for me. So I did that for 10 years in Manhattan. And then I moved and ended up starting a gym with my husband, which is how Lori and I know each other.
Firstly, I'd just like to say everyone needs you in their life by the sounds of it. So if I could just have you move across here to Australia to help me, being organized and creative, two fabulous qualities.
Yes.
And secondly, I think as soon as you said, you worked in fashion and lived in Manhattan, for us here in Australia, we've got those, if you're my age, that is, we've got these memories of Sex and the City.
Oh, yes.
And so it sounds like you were kind of living that lifestyle a little bit.
Or the Devil Wears Prada. Yeah. It's intense. Yeah.
Is that real? Is that reality though?
Yeah. Honestly, it can be pretty bad.
All right. So you had to obviously leave that corporate world and leave Manhattan, and you moved across the same state.
I just moved down. No, just from New York down to Maryland.
Yeah. And so now you've got the new business, Creative Bodega. But what we're talking about primarily today is obviously along the lines, and you would have had some sort of self-doubt, or at some time even starting the Creative Bodega at the beginning, when you're thinking, will anyone even follow me? Have I got enough qualifications or information to be able to share, to build my audience firstly, and then, create a successful business? So can you tell us about a time where you felt that and what you did to overcome it?
Yeah. So basically how my business started was I was a mentor, a marketing and business mentor for other gym owners as I was a gym owner. And I just wasn't feeling 100% fulfilled. And the calls that I was having day in and day out, they took a lot out of me, my personality and who I am. It's like my little kids would get home and I'd have nothing left to give. I wanted to just lay down on the ground. So I was listening to a podcast from Amy Porterfield, who is a course creator. She has a course on how to make courses called Digital Course Academy. And she was like, stop trading time for money if you have no more time left. And I was like, oh my God, she's talking to me. Like her marketing was phenomenal. So like, she's literally talking to me. So I talked my husband into purchasing this course, which I had no business purchasing because we did not have the money. And I was going to make it about meal prepping because we had a gym and I was a nutrition coach and it was safe and it made the most sense. And I literally got to the first step of making your course outline. And I just was like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And he was like, well, if you could, my husband said, if you could make a course on anything, what would it be? And I was like, immediately Canva and Instagram, Canva and social media. Like when I'm talking to gym owners, when they want to talk about that, I light up, and everything else I don't really want to talk about, So he was like, then do it. And I was like, what? So overnight, I came up with the business name and I decided what I was going to do. I started an Instagram account and I started an email list all at the same time. And of course, I started following all these other people who talk about Canva. And that was the first time I started feeling like there's no room for me. There's already so many people who do this. Because it's all I'm seeing in my feed. So one of the first things I did to overcome it was to stop following all these people who do what I do, because it was clouding my thoughts. I was thinking I needed to be like them. It just was messing with everything. So that's one of the first things I tell people, like maybe one or two, follow a couple great ones who are very far ahead of you, but everyone else, get them out of your feed, because for me, it just makes me feel like there's no room for me. But the next thing was having to get on video, having to get on video day in and day out. I'm an introvert, believe it or not. I'm pretty shy, and it was incredibly difficult for me to get on video, but I knew it was necessary for me to get from where I was to where I wanted to be, which is where I am today. And I just said, what is the worst thing that could happen? Like, what's the worst thing? I've never had somebody comment on a video and say like, you look terrible, or like, you're not good at this, or like, most people don't do things like that. So I just committed to doing one video a week. I said, what's the minimum I can do, and just commit to doing it. And the only thing that got me better and to gain more confidence was just putting in the reps with anything I was doing. Then I had to get on stories. I wasn't doing stories when I first started. And I was like, I got to get on stories. What can I do? Okay, one story a day minimum. And it can be about anything I want. Like I have to be very comfortable with the subject. And again, putting in the reps is the only thing that got me comfortable and made me start thinking about other things I could share with people. So putting in the reps is the next major thing. But another thing that I think people don't realize, because I work with so many female solopreneurs, is even though there are so many other people that do what you do, nobody has the same set of like life experiences, teaching styles, and like character traits as you. So like what you bring to your product is going to be unlike anyone else just because of that, right? So there's so many people that teach Canva. I'm not the only person out there, but they're not me. They don't look like me. They don't sound like me. They don't teach like I do. And again, if I hadn't have initially put myself out there, if I never would have really maybe known that or figured that out. So something I like to tell my students really often is just like, let's think about like, what is the worst thing that could happen by making that post or taking that risk and building that course? Or like, if you really think about it, what's the worst that can happen? And honestly, it's not usually that bad when you think about it. But I would say those are the main things. And then a quote that I heard actually from Amy Porterfield was that you only needed to know 10% more than the average person in order to teach someone else about it, which sounded so crazy to me and so low. Like 10% is not that much. But, Lori, if you knew how to sail, like sail boats on like, I don't know about sailing. And if you knew 10% more, you could absolutely teach me about it. And I would listen to every single word you told me. So you don't actually have to know that much more in order to teach someone about it. And that sort of gave me the confidence. I knew 10% more. I was like, I know that from working with so many people one-on-one. I did so much one-on-one work that like by the time I was ready to make a course, like I knew what the themes were of what people needed help with. So I don't know. Those were the main things that sort of came into my mind when I talked to you about doing this is, not following a ton of people in your field that do the same thing, remembering that your unique set of skills, life experiences, teaching styles are going to set you apart from everybody else. And then just really trying to have an abundance mindset that there is room at the table for everyone, including you.
I keep talking to everyone at the moment to say you need to start even myself actually, start blocking people out. I've got this little saying. I always say, follow your own star, because no one knows necessarily your particular destination and what you want out of life or your business, right, or what your purpose is. Only you know that. So people can derail you if they don't know what that is. So I'm a big believer of follow your own star and just be careful who influences you. So
correct. Here's
a question for you. So then when you originally did your first course, when you signed up to become a bit of a Canva guru with Amy's course, what made you decide to then monetize it and create your own course and teach other people how to use Canva and social media to get exposure?
Well, I picked something that I could teach in my sleep and that lit me up. Like it was, I knew it forth and back and forth. And it made me really excited to talk about it. And I wanted to get out of my 9 to 5. I had a 3 and a 4-year-old, and I had, again, 7 45-minute long mentoring calls a day, 5 days a week. And my throat hurt. And I was exhausted, and it was during COVID, and it was depressing and hard. And here these people needed me to lift them up. But meanwhile, my gym is suffering. And, so it was all just too much at the time. And so I knew I wanted to monetize right away. I knew I wanted to sell this course. That was the plan all along. But I picked something that lit me up and that I knew 10% more than the average person about. And I priced it way too low. I mean, my first round, I got 45 people, which is a lot for a first course. And I priced it probably $300 less than it was just the last time I did it. So I just needed to do that. And everyone told me it's too low. And I'm like, I need to do this the first round to gain that confidence, to see that people are going to sign up, to get the feedback from everybody. And then the next round, I'll figure it out and I'll increase my prices. But that was just something I had to do sort of for me.
I think Tegan, who's also on this call, was probably one of your first purchasers. She's been following you, definitely. She's always sending stuff to us from you, which is in case we miss it, but you're in our feed every day as well.
That's awesome.
But what gave you the courage? Because there's a lot of people out there that they want to start courses and then monetize it as well. And so what made you feel like what you were going, like the product that you were delivering was something you could actually sell? Because I mean, one of the things that, when we set up a course, we're like, have I got enough modules? Am I giving them enough content or value? I think the word's value I'm looking for. So what made you decide or feel confident enough to sell, albeit too cheap at the time?
Yeah.
What made you or gave you the courage to just go, you know what, my product is good enough?
Yeah. I think that first I really love organizing information. So that first course outline, me mapping it all out, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, here's the assignment that I want them to do. And then I did course validation calls. So I literally got on the phone with 8 other female entrepreneurs that I knew used Canva. And I just said, what do you think about this? What do you think about the name? What do you think about the price? What do you think about the flow of what this course would look like? And honestly, their feedback like blew my mind, because they told me, they were struggling with things that I never would have thought of because I didn't struggle with it. You know what I mean? Here I'm thinking, I don't really need to talk about like using templates, because like, God, they're there and they're so easy to like customize. And everyone I talk to, I can't find templates that work for me. I don't know how to make them look good for my business. And I was like, what? You really? Like, you don't? And then an entire week was born out of that because it was consistent through all of them. So those course validation calls were a huge like turning point for me. And again, they said like, I'd feel comfortable with this price. I'd feel comfortable with it lasting this long. So I tell people, if you're going to make a course, like, I recommend you don't hit the home run to start. It's like, you don't build a signature course to start with. I think you do a 2 to 4 week course that you can teach in your sleep. You're super confident about, you're excited about it, and then build from there. And that's what I did. I did my Canva course, and then that ended. And I'm like, people are still not posting. All my students, they're still not posting on social media. What's the problem? So I DM'd them. Well, hey, can we hop on a call? I just want to talk to you. Turns out they didn't know what to post about. They didn't have a batching system. They couldn't find the time. And I'm like, oh, well, I can literally teach you exactly how I batch all my stuff. So then my next course was born. And then I eventually just had the two get married, and now I have a signature course, but it took me 2 years to get to this point. But I am constantly talking to my people. I am constantly asking my followers, what do you think about this? I'm working on this. Hey, check out behind the scenes of this. Like, I get them excited, I get them involved, and then by the time I'm ready to launch this product, they're ready. Like, they're excited. They felt like they've been a part of it all along, and like they want a seat at the table. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, you've built up to 70,000 followers now as well. So you've obviously got, and we can see there's quite a lot of engagement, which is the key to creating that audience as well. Here's a question. What has there ever been a time where you've felt like giving up?
Never.
Yes,
I've never felt like giving up. I don't know if I just did things in the exact right order, but I've been, knock on wood, I've been incredibly lucky that anything I've sort of put out has been successful so far, which is like, I'm saying that and I'm so appreciative of it. Well, I mean, one thing I did there's 2 things I did that I like to tell people, again, I started my business. I came up with my business name, started an email list, and got on Instagram. I picked one social media platform that I liked the best and that I thought my people were on, and I only focused on that. I still only focus on Instagram. I'm about to start a YouTube, but again, I've been doing this for 2 years. And I just was like, I'm going to pick one platform and just learn it inside and out and be great at it. I started my email list immediately, and I did not offer something for them to purchase for 6 months. I didn't have anything. I just was like giving. Here's ideas, here's tips, here's tricks for free. So by the time 6 months passed and I had this product that came out, my first course, like, again, like, they were ready, and they were like, you haven't even been trying to sell anything to us. Like, I can't believe how much value you give. And it's like, if you wanted to go into my Instagram account and put all my videos together, you could probably piece together my whole course if you wanted to. I don't hold back, and I give 99% of what I know on social media. But I know that there are those people out there that want it packaged nicely from A to Z with me involved and with my feedback, and they're going to be willing to pay for it. So yeah, I mean, if I would do anything, it's like, I always tell people, give more than you ask. You want to be giving so much. You can't give too much free information, in my opinion. It just builds you up as an expert. And you're assuming everyone's going to even see what you post, which is likely not the case. So, if 50% gets in front of them, great. But yeah, give more than you ask, start that email list. I can't depend on Instagram alone to get me to where I want to be in my business. It's not my only strategy. And yeah, give more than you ask for sure.
What would you say to Em maybe 5 years ago when she was leaving fashion and branching out into running your own business? What's the advice that you would give that Poor young lady.
Oh my gosh. You know, and I did it then, and I just to follow my instincts and follow my gut. My gut and my instincts have not led me astray so far. And I've taken so many chances in my life. I've never wanted, I won't settle or be complacent. If something's not feeling right or good, I'm not doing it, or I'm doing everything I can to make a change. Like when I was in my 9 to 5 and just felt drained of life, I was like, I'm not willing to keep doing, like, there's got to be something else for me. Oh, so then I started listening to podcasts. I started walking my neighborhood and listening to podcasts. And then I heard Amy Porterfield, and that led me to signing up for her course. And that led me to building a course. And that led me to leaving my job because I was making enough money. Like, there's something I can't stand is when people are unhappy with their current situations, but not willing to make the moves or, start trying to figure out how you can get out of it. So I would just tell people, follow your gut, follow your instincts, trust yourself, and believe in yourself.
We've got a comment here from Nicole. She said that she started to follow you within a few days, purchased your 3-day self-paced course. And she said what she loved about you was your open and honest personality on your Instagram videos. And it gave her knowledge, firstly, and the trust factor with you. So she's a massive advocate.
That's great. I recognize Nicole's name. I think she DM'd me today or yesterday. I know that name. That's awesome. And that's what when people sign up for any of my courses, and the very first thing I ask them to put in the comments, like, what made you invest in me? What made you buy from me? This is not for me so much. It is for all of you to see, like, what are the key words you're seeing over and over that makes someone open their wallet and invest in you. And it's like authenticity, consistency, giving a lot of value. Like, those are the things, and they're hard. Consistency is, I think, the hardest for people, which is why it was so important for me to build the course that I did, because I know without being consistent, I never would have gotten to where I am. And the authenticity is, my stories are if you follow my stories, those are my people. Like, that's my community. I'm constantly like interacting with them, and I love that part of Instagram. And I share more than just, Canva. It's not like Canva. I'm like, hey, check out my outdoor fish pond. They had babies. Like, like, talk about the most, hey, my dog ate a sock and it's super annoying. And my kids are doing this. So it's not all, there's a nice balance between just like real life M and Canva M, which I think people really appreciate.
So how do you do it all? Because you're a mother of 2 beautiful young little cherubs there as well. You're a solopreneur. So, and you're talking about, being consistent. So I see that you do post about family, and I know family time is extremely important to you, and you don't budge, and nor should you, because that's your priority, which I absolutely love. And, we're constantly teaching people about time management. So, you stick true to that. So I love it. So how do you manage it? How do you get personal with all your clients? And still run the family and, a very, very huge successful business?
Yeah, well, like you said, I'm very regimented about, like, I work when my kids are at school. It's from, 8:30 till 3:30. Those are my working hours, and I have a lot to get done. And batching my content is one of the biggest things that I do to save time. So I have a schedule for the week. On Monday, I post this. On Tuesday, it's this. On Wednesday, it's this. I have Canva templates all built out and ready to go and recolored that I can use. I will stick with one type of post and just make 4, 5, 6 of them in a row for the 4, 5, 6 Tuesdays in a row. And I use later.com to schedule them all out so that I don't have to be responsible for it. Because when I started this, I had a full-time job and I was on calls, and I couldn't just hope that I remembered to put a post out. I had to schedule it in advance. So I would batch on the weekends when my kids were watching shows. They had quiet time. I'd hop on my computer, batch, schedule. I had 15-minute breaks in between my mentoring calls. Sometimes I would have to post them then, or I'd hop in stories then. I just found these pockets of time, and I made it a priority. It was it was a priority from day one. And so, and when something's not working, you know, when it wasn't working or I wasn't doing what I wanted to, I would sit and say, okay, like, what's the biggest struggle here? Why am I not getting this done? Oh, well, it's because XYZ. Okay, how can we work around that? Who can I ask for help to help me with the kids? Or, you know, so again, complacency is just like not in my DNA. It's like I will keep fighting to figure it out because it matters to me. So yeah. And then when my kids get home, like the laptop is away, the phone is away. I'm with them from 3:30 until they go to bed at 7:38. I might hop on if I'm in a course, I might have something to do after that. But for the most part, I don't sleep with my phone in my room. I don't aimlessly scroll Instagram when I'm laying in bed in the morning or at night. I treat it like a business. And that helps me not burn out, to be honest, and help me not waste time, which is precious.
That's very good discipline. I'm going to start throwing
Yeah.
my phone in the office now.
I don't need it. It's in the kitchen. I say goodnight to it and I walk upstairs and it's just freeing. Like, it's like, I don't need that. I'd rather read. I'd rather, you know, do some stretches in bed before I get up. I don't want to scroll. I'm not interested.
Yeah, the digital detox, I think, was something we all kind of need at times, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, so any final words for you or any last minute advice for these wonderful women out here thinking about starting something or even going for a promotion or something like that? What's the advice that you would give them?
Oh my gosh. I mean, really just to dig deep, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? The ask is free if it's about a promotion. And if you're working towards something that lights you up, like my genre does, like it doesn't feel like work. And in the end, it'll be worth it when you get to where you want to be. So, I mean, truly, it's believing in yourself. I think that's like the biggest, and it's hard. But I just remind myself, if I don't believe in myself, how am I going to get other people to believe in me and buy into what I'm doing? Like, I know I have what it takes. I just have to, you know, push through. So,
and I think the key
say,
thing that you said earlier was being passionate about what you do. And of course, because you love this so much. I mean, we see that in all your posts and right now as well, but that makes it easier, doesn't it? So if you've got a passion,
so much easier. And people pick up on that. I'm like, look at your social media and like, what do you come across? You know, look at it as an outsider. Are you smiling? Are you excited? Do you have high energy? Or do you look like a deer in headlights? Like, I probably looked like a deer in headlights when I first started, but again, I just kept showing up until I got more comfortable. So, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming on this afternoon morning for us. So thank you so much for your time today. For those out there, Em has a Instagram page called The Creative Bodega and a website for that matter. There is heaps and heaps and heaps of free content on there. She's true to her word there. It's very valuable and it will certainly help you. And as you know, she will reach out to you. So if you do want to talk to her, send her a DM and ask her a question, and I'm sure she'll give you some feedback or connect with you.
You will. Thank you so much for having me. I just popped my Instagram into the chat, so you guys can find me there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll see you real soon, hopefully.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sam. So next, what I have is another amazing woman coming to the floor here, Danielle. Danielle is the founder of Business Babes Collective over in Canada.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, she's also my mentor. And she's beautiful, which is fabulous. She's a mother too of a young daughter, Rosie. You help so many women. I see your business has been around for quite a long time, Danielle. You've all been all about empowering women for so long. And you started off in live events, and now you've created, I think in 2020, you turned it into an online platform to really try to connect and broaden that exposure to reach more women. So we're really excited to have you here today. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. And I apologize if it's a little bit echoey. I'm at a co-working space and I really want to make sure that I don't have any distractions. So hopefully you can hear me properly.
Is the distractions the husband and the baby girl?
Well, Well, it's so funny. Like I used to work from home all the time and I still work from home most of the time, but man, it is so game changing to come to a new environment. I don't know if anyone else has kids here. I know you do. So yeah, it is just so great to be able to be in a working environment, and it feels nice to be around other people that are working. So it's good.
It was really funny. I was literally dreaming about a co-working space last night, thinking maybe I should go to a co-working space to do this as opposed to at home as well in the old home office, just so that you don't have those distractions.
Yeah.
My distraction's just here on the couch next to me with her eyes rolled back, sleeping. So she's good.
Yeah. Awesome.
So the reason we have you here today, Danielle, is we're talking about imposter syndrome. And, you know, I want you to kind of think about a time in your life where you faced the fear, I guess, you know, that you faced that self-doubt. And what was it that got you over over that little bridge there to allow you to create an amazing podcast and, you know, international women's networking business?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say the first several years of my business, honestly, I really felt like I was throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what was going to stick. And I'll be just so honest here, because I know, like, for who just shared her journey, it was so much different than mine, where when I started, I honestly had zero connections. I had really no experience other than running a couple other businesses on the side of my full-time job before I had started this community. And so really it was this inspiration that I wanted a community for myself, because I felt like the community that I was trying to connect with, there wasn't anything like that in my local city, which is Vancouver, Canada. And so it started with, you know, our first event that we hosted. I think there was about 10 people there. And, you know, those first few months and years of the business, it was really just like failing forward, honestly. And, you know, there were some things that worked, there were some things that didn't. But, you know, I'm so grateful for that time, because I think one thing that it really taught me, and this is something I think all entrepreneurs need, is it taught me grit. It taught me that, you know, if you don't give up, like if you truly keep going, even if you feel like you're falling on your face, you're embarrassing yourself, you're not making progress, I promise you, you are. In all of the failures and all of the mistakes that you make, you're truly like, you're able to push yourself forward. And so that's, I feel like the beginning of my journey was just so much learning. And, you know, I had a ton of imposter syndrome, because I would connect and network with these women who, you know, were incredibly influential in my local city. And I would reach out to them and I would say, like, hey, you know, I don't have anything to show for myself. I don't have a community really built yet, but this is my vision. This is what I want to create. And so it was really getting over myself. Honestly, it was getting over my own fears and insecurities of, what is this person going to think about me? What if they say no? What if they ignore me? All of that. And that happened, right? But there were people who said yes. There were people who connected back with me and said, hey, this is like, I love what you're doing. I love what you're trying to create. Let me be a part of it. And they supported me from day one. And I'll tell you, like, a lot of those people that supported me from day one, we've been connected since then, and we've collaborated multiple times since then. And so it's just really cool to look back and just think, like, you know, what if I let my own fears and insecurities hold me back? First of all, I would not have the business and the lifestyle that I have today, but there'd be so many other women who wouldn't be positively affected by the work that we now get to do.
It's funny, actually. I think what you've just kind of said is literally the space that I'm in right now, is that, you know, we're starting a brand new brand. We're fresh in the area, and I'm starting to reach out to people and go, oh, hey, my name's Loza. You don't know me yet, but this is our vision, and will you be a part of it? I'm literally going through that. And of course, I have the fear, I have the self-doubt. Well, what if they don't respond? But at the end of the day, and what you tell me as well is, so what? What if they don't respond? And it's, something I've also learned is it's never. Like, they just, it's all about timing as well. And sometimes you might just have to wait that little bit longer before they're ready to reach out. Or again, people have their own worlds that they're having to, to live in as well. So has there ever been a time for you where you felt like giving up?
Yes. I would say there's one in particular time where I really felt like I didn't know what was next for me. I don't know if it was really like I knew in my brain, I knew that I was not going to give up, but it was really questioning myself, like, is what I'm doing working? Is there a better way to go about what I'm doing? At the time, it was about 3 years into building the community, and I was doing it all myself. I didn't have a team. I didn't have anyone else helping me. I would have collaborators for our events, but I didn't have anyone consistently supporting me in this vision. And that was super challenging. And I think I had to just get over the fact of like taking that risk and taking that step to move forward and to actually like basically take a risk on myself. And so that summer I ended up hiring 2 people at the exact same time. And we started really like building the community. And that was a huge game changer. And also just like setting boundaries of my time as well, because I am a yes person. I say yes to everything. And, that served me well in some cases, but then in other ways, it really, I hit burnout. Like, if I'm being totally honest, I was completely burnt out. And so it was really doing a lot of, I think, self-reflection on what do I want my business to look like long-term? And if I'm honest with you, like, I've had those moments throughout my journey. So, we've been running this community for 8 years, and there's been several times where I've had to really reflect on, are we serving our community in the best way? Does this work for our team? Does this work for me personally? What do I want the business to look like a year from now, or even 5 years from now? And asking myself those hard questions, because I think the easiest thing you can do is just continue doing what you've always done, and not making changes, right? So it's really stepping into the discomfort of that growth and maybe making some difficult decisions. We've had times in the business where we had to make difficult decisions as far as, the way that we're growing and who we have involved. And those are all things in business that you have to deal with, right? No one wants to have those hard, awkward conversations with people, but it's necessary sometimes for growth. And so, yeah, I think there's been several times where I felt like, I don't know if it felt like quitting necessarily. It's more like, this is really hard. What's my next step here? I don't know where to go from here. And so for me, it's been, getting that support from coaches or mentors, or surrounding myself with a community of people who understand the challenges that come along with running your own business. And so that's really what has helped me.
So it's extremely important to surround yourself and have that even that really tight, small network to help keep bringing you up and pushing you forward and giving you that momentum to, I guess, keep going every day. Do you have a really good network there that do you have different people for different things? Or when you're, feeling a certain way, you have different people for certain things, or do you have your 1 or 2 people there that you just always go to? And how did you find them?
Oh man, that's such a good question. I definitely have different people for different things. So I'm always investing in my own growth and my own education, whether that be being a part of a group program, a mastermind, hiring a coach or a mentor who can support me. And, I think sometimes you need different things in different seasons of your business and of your life, and different people to support you in different ways. And so, when I was wanting to go all in on my podcast last year, I decided to take this mastermind. It was this very high level mastermind specifically for podcasters. And so I did a 3-month program. It was the most I've ever paid in full for a program. And I did that. And then I ended up actually investing in a retreat with the same group of people that same year. And there's something about like immersing yourself and really like taking those scary steps, whether it be like investing in something or taking those risks that have such huge rewards. And what I learned from that was that, I would have never been able to get where I am today, like specifically, and the way that it's affected my business as well, but specifically the podcast, like we hit the top 1.5% globally of our podcast this summer. And I would have never been able to do that without that program, right? Like it wouldn't have happened. I know that for sure. I know that it was the support that I received. Em talked about consistency, having those people around me that were all being consistent. So then I wanted to be consistent too. And so that was a huge learning thing for me. And then now I'm in a program that is absolutely amazing. And it's really supporting me with the direction I'm now really going into, which is, we've always been doing events, but virtual and in-person events and really diving into that. And so that's what's really supporting me right now. And then the cool thing is that when you connect with these people and when you invest in these things, you make friends in these programs that last, right? Like I'm still connected with so many of the women that I did these programs with, and we're still in contact, and we have Voxer chats and we connect one-on-one, and it's amazing. When you build your network, when you build your community, it's incredible to see what comes of that. And often it's, I always talk about like the ripple effects that it has when you start to build your community. Mm-hmm. And, even from the virtual event that I hosted just a month ago, there's been so many ripple effects from that. And people asking me to be on their podcasts that I never would have connected with otherwise, and relationships and collaborations that are coming from that. So yeah, doing scary things really pays off.
Yes, it does. We talk about getting uncomfortable, like in order to, even in leadership in general, which you have to get uncomfortable to grow. But also obviously it allows you to overcome fear and self-doubt. And more importantly, it results in confidence, which we need as leaders. Have you had any major setbacks in your career, throughout setting up your business?
Yes.
In any
yes,
particularly that like have really stemmed through, imposter syndrome and self-doubt?
Yeah. I think what really comes to mind for me was back in 2020. Of course, that was a huge transitional period for a lot of people. But we had been running our in-person events for, at that time, it was about 5 years. And so that's what we knew. That's what we were good at. That's what we thrived in. And when everything shut down, we had to cancel our events. We actually had 5 different chapters across North America where we were hosting events. And overnight, that was all gone. Couldn't host any in-person events. And that was obviously a time where there was a lot of self-reflection on, okay, what's next? And as we started to realize this is something that's not just going to be, a short-term thing. This is a long-term pause on all things events. And so we really had to completely restructure the business. And that was super challenging for me because, and it was a pride thing, I think, as well. I was known as the events person who was really good at in-person events. And that's how people knew me. That's how, that was what I took pride in, hosting these amazing events in person. And so I really had to let go of that and realize, okay, I'm not that person anymore, because the events, in-person events don't exist right now. But what skills have I learned through hosting these in-person events that could actually translate really well into this new online space? And in a lot of ways, I felt like I was starting from scratch 5 years into the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really humbling for me. It was learning a lot of new skills and learning a lot of new things that did not come naturally to me. Technology does not come naturally to me at all. And so it was really that growth period that now I'm super grateful for. At the time, I was not so grateful for it. But man, like I am so grateful because now we have this incredible, amazing online community that now we're able to do events again, which is beautiful, but they both support each other. So it's so cool to see that we have this amazing virtual community. And then we also have our in-person events, and they really support each other in such a beautiful way. And so that's, I think, a big transition, challenging time for me. And by the way, fall of 2020, it was right after we had hosted this virtual event, our first virtual event. And I was feeling, again, similar thing that happened before, extremely burnt out, not sure what was next for me. And then the next month after that, I found out I was pregnant. And I was like, what am I going to do? So that was, again, a moment where I had to really make some hard decisions on what was next for us. And like I said, I'm grateful for all of it, all of the times where I thought, like, okay, this is the end. This is the end for me. Like I have to give up on my business and do something else. But we were able to pivot and change and learn and grow. And the last couple of years have been some of the most challenging, but also the most rewarding too.
What you do a lot of stuff in person. So obviously when you started, were hosting these live events. So you're getting up there on stage in front of people. It's the same if you're giving a speech, or even when you first started your first few podcasts, and I know you get the sweaty palms, or even hosting your online summits that you do, you get the sweaty palms and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna quiver when I speak, and all those sorts of things. What has allowed you to feel comfortable or more comfortable speaking on stage or interviewing people?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was Em that said this, is repetition, just doing it. It is super uncomfortable the first few times, especially like my first few in-person events. I was terrified. And it's funny because some of the things that I was terrified of happening actually did happen. So, I was scared of getting emails from people saying that they didn't enjoy the event. And I got those emails. I was shocked. I was like, I thought that if I just put myself out there and I did scary things, I was always going to be rewarded for it. And yes, you do see the rewards from it, but sometimes those things that you're fearing do happen. And the reason why I'm sharing that with you, because it might seem like, oh, that's discouraging, is that I survived. Like it was okay. I've gotten nasty emails. I've gotten things in my inbox. And those things used to really, really affect me a lot. But now I honestly, often when I get those emails, I have so much empathy and grace for the person on the other side, because you realize that it actually normally has absolutely nothing to do with you. And that the more you grow your business, the more exposure you get, which is amazing. But there's also, things that come from that as well. And so, and I'm not saying this is always, but sometimes there is a hint of jealousy in there too for people. And so people react in certain ways that sometimes are unhelpful. Yeah. But, like you learn from that and you grow from that. And so like now it's just like, okay, I know who I'm supposed to serve. I know that if I stand up in front of a crowd, or if I'm on a podcast, or if I'm, being a part of a virtual event like this, there's going to be some people who don't resonate with what I say, and that's okay. But there's going to be some people who really resonate with what I have to say, and they think to themselves, wow, I feel seen, I feel heard, this is what I'm going through. And so if I can help like one other person, and make a difference for them, then that's what I'm going to do. So I don't know if that answers your question. But.
Yeah, I truly agree with that too. Like I always feel like if we can, the whole point of the Sisterhood Collective is literally, if I could just, as a collective, if we can impact or, help anybody, just one person every day or even once a week, then we've been successful in our journey, because that's what we're all about, is just giving someone the confidence to do something, or, having that support network that they needed that they couldn't find somewhere else. I feel like if we could just do that, then, we've done what we needed to do. And it's the same kind of when we go for, you go and do a course, or you go to a conference or a summit. Like my big thing, and I think I learned this a few years ago, if you just get one gold nugget from that conference, then that was a successful, trip. So that's all I need, is one little thing from everybody. That'd be fabulous. So that's really good. So what would you say to Danielle about, let's go 10 years ago when you first started out? What's the advice that you would give the young Danielle when she's starting the Business Babes Collective?
I would just say do more scary things, honestly. Because I think I've done a lot of scary things in my journey, but now that I realize that once you do those scary things, the fear goes away, and you realize like it's not actually that scary. And so I think I've held myself back from a lot of opportunities that I could have had because I was fearful, or if I thought I didn't have enough experience yet, or I thought I wasn't ready, or didn't have enough, I didn't have a big enough community, whatever that might be. And so I think I would just tell myself, like, just go for it. Like, again, who cares if you get a no? Who cares if you embarrass yourself? Who cares if someone rejects you? It's really not a big deal at the end of the day. And I think it's cool because as I start to really understand that and internalize that, like, it's amazing to me that some of the people that I have been so nervous to like reach out to or connect with, I realize, they're people too. They have their own fears. They have their own insecurities. They're just like me. And a lot of the times, those connections turn into really amazing relationships. So yeah, that's the advice I would give.
And then, so any final advice to the community here that's watching you today that are probably sitting there thinking, but you know what, I'm not as confident as you. I'm a little bit shy and I don't know if I can do what you're doing.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I actually am pretty shy. It's people are always shocked when I say that. Actually, a funny story is when I was little, I was so deathly shy. And on one of my, I think it was like my kindergarten report card, how they give like report cards, they're not really report cards, but on it said, Danielle is finally making friends at the end of the year. Because I was so shy with the other kids. I only wanted to hang out with the adults that were in the room. I was just so shy with other kids. And so I think it's just like, you probably look at other people that maybe you see as like further ahead than you are, whatever that might look like. And you might think that they have something special that you don't. And I promise you, they're very similar to you, and they have the same insecurities. They have the same thoughts, and maybe they've just pushed past those fears more times than you have. And that's why they're at the place that they are. But I still have fears all the time. Like it's not like my fears go away. It's just, I just have learned that, hey, if I'm feeling this, it's actually a good sign that I'm doing something that's going to have a really great result. So that's what I would say. Just go for it. I
Just
know
go
that's super
for it.
simple advice, but
Go for it and know that the fear is going to come back, but you've done it before, so you can do it again as well, right? Well, we appreciate you coming on our little webinar today from Canada. So thank you. We've got Tegan's put in the chat there your podcast, which is Business Babes Collective, which I think is on Spotify. Is it on Spotify and on Apple?
Yeah, it's Apple, Spotify, and wherever else you listen
Everywhere.
to podcasts. Basically,
check
yeah.
And she has a really good website as well. There's heaps of free resources there as well. You're a very accomplished young lady. So thank you for giving us your time today. We appreciate you having you here. We'll see you soon. All right. So next up, I've got Grace joining us.
Unmute Grace. Yes.
Unmute Grace. Where are you? Let me pin you as well. Bring you to the floor and let Danielle step back. There we go. Hi, Grace. How are you?
Hello. Good morning, Laurie. Nice to see you.
Hello, Canberra.
Hello, Canberra. Please include Canberra, the nation's capital. But
You know what? I was kind of stalking everyone last night because, I mean, that's what I do. And I'm good at it. I will tell you that. But I didn't realize that you had a TED Talk.
I was wondering if you'd discover that.
I did. And I sat right here watching it last night, writing my notes. But firstly, let me introduce you, Grace. So Grace was our amazing photographer that kind of pulled the three of us girls together, because obviously we come from Perth, Melbourne, and Brisbane. So we all flew into Canberra. Thankfully, we found Grace, and she put this, as well as the beautiful Tegan and Lauren, and created something a little bit nicer on the eye for the public, so we're very truly grateful there. We had a ball with you, an amazing photographer, and you've been in the photography industry for over 20 years. You said a couple of decades, and I thought, what makes her sound younger? Do I say decades or do I say 20 years? And I'm like, I'm not sure.
I don't mind sounding old. It's fine.
We're not old. We are experienced and quite a lovely vintage, I will say. So anyway, you've got gracecostaphotographer.com is your website. You've been in the industry for 20 years, and you started off, I think, doing babies and children first, then moved into the Department of Defense, looking after some of their major projects and showcasing some of those. And now you are looking after amazing branding. So branding all of us beautiful people, and also some key leaders in the capital, in Canberra. And then you've also got your podcast, which is to help other photographers or creatives.
That's right.
You also mentor to help other creatives and have courses and workshops and all those things. You have a little collective down in Canberra to connect the women down there as well. And you have a passion for horses, thanks to your dad.
Yes.
Wow. Well, that's an intro, isn't it? So did I do my homework all right?
Yes, well done. Box ticked.
Well, thank you for coming on. So today's talk is primarily all about imposter syndrome. I think it's something that we've all faced before. And what we're trying to kind of delve into a little bit is hearing your story of when is a time that you've maybe had self-doubt, or felt the imposter syndrome, and what you did to overcome that throughout your journey in those last 20 years. So could you tell us a time when that happened?
Probably leaving my corporate photography job. I was a photographer for the Department of Defense for over 10 years, and I identified myself in that job for so long I didn't want to leave. And in the back of my mind, I thought, well, people who run a business are crazy. When you can be employed and just have it so easy, regular income, you don't have to chase work, and it's just so much more simple. But eventually things shifted in my role and it was time to leave, but I had to be really brave to do that. And I didn't know how to run a business. My family came from a horse riding school business, and I had the belief that our business, we struggled. Mm-hmm. But when I first jumped into my own business and I started doing business training so that I could learn how to run a business, I realized they had a question to find out what beliefs are holding you back. And for me, I realized I believed that our family business didn't do well, so therefore I wouldn't be good in business. Excuse me. Once I asked my dad the truth, I said, how did our family business go? And he said, gosh, it was such a successful business for 20 years. And then it sort of busted that myth that, oh, okay, now I have permission to be good in business, even though it kind of didn't even really relate. It gave me the confidence, and it made me shift my belief system around becoming good in business. And I knew that I just had to do the training. Just like I had to train to be a photographer, I started training to be a businesswoman. And that helped me feel a bit more confident going into it.
How do you get some of your big named clients then?
Through connections.
So what gives you that confidence to reach out and connect and build this massive, network that you are creating in Canberra? And of course, I found you from Queensland. So obviously you're getting out there nationally as well. So what's given you the confidence to be able to, I guess, expose yourself, so to speak, and to get that broader network and connections to be able to build a successful business?
I think being employed with a huge agency like Department of Defence probably gave me the confidence. I started there when I was 26 years old, and I had to photograph military leaders, world leaders in the military as well, for international conferences and events and things like that. I had to be intimate with them in a close studio environment and make them feel engage with them and make them feel comfortable in front of the camera. I had to soften them up because a lot of them were hard men, that didn't stand and didn't want to smile. And I would treat them like a real person and be like, hey, do you want to have a look at this shot of you not smiling? And I'll show you the one, of I just pull out the truth, and they're like, yeah, you're right, I should smile, Grace. I said, yes, you should. And so I guess working with men like that just sort of gave me the confidence once I was out that I've done really important engagements, Governor General's house and everything. If I can do that successfully, inside a job, I can tackle that outside. And I think just through knowing people in the government, people have just given me jobs because of their role in the government, and I've been able to support their department as well. So it's just sort of round circle like that.
So then tell me, what made you decide, I think it was in 2022, so last year, you decided to branch out and also start a podcast?
Yeah, so that came about because a client of mine said, oh, so when are you going to start a podcast, Grace? And I was like, why is she sending that to me? I'm the last person that would start a podcast. And then I wrote to her and I said, why did you write that? And she goes, oh, you love talking, and, you're really engaging. You love teaching. And I was like, yeah, I'll think about it, and put it on just behind, in the background. But I'd been listening to podcasts for over 10 years. It's my way of learning without reading a book, because I don't make time for reading all that much. So I fell in love with podcasting. And then seeing my coach do podcasts and how much value I got out of it, I thought to myself, maybe it is my time. Maybe I actually belong in this room. And that was something I believed in myself, that I did belong in that room, that podcaster platform. I had so much to share from 20 years of photography, being in the industry. I could share so much stories, tips, ideas. And then I just took some time to write down any topics I would talk about. And before I knew it, I'd come up with 30. And I thought, okay, there's enough content here to at least get started. And also, it doesn't have to be forever. And also, it doesn't have to be the best. It just has to be the best I can do. And so, yeah, got started.
we go back to that. If I can just reach one person and I give them one tip, then I'm happy and satisfied with what I've done. And that's kind of how you started.
Yeah, that's right. And I knew I had people that were going to listen because I had previous clients that I'd mentored before, beginner photographers. I had a big network of photographers, obviously through being in the industry so long. I knew there was people that were going to listen. And, you know, now we've got over 500 downloads and it's only been out 3 months. It's in 7 countries. So that gives me motivation to keep going because now I feel obliged to look after those listeners and give them more and more and make it bigger and better.
It's funny, isn't it? You start off with whatever your audience looks like. It's always mum. Hey, mum. My mum's definitely here. She's always there supporting me. And then you get those few friends to kind of come and, you know, rally around you. And then slowly, you know, you start to get that little bit of exposure, or the word of mouth starts to creep out there, and people go, have you heard Grace Costa's podcast? You might like her. She does photography and she tells you all about this creative stuff, and they're like, oh, I'll take it. And then you start to build that up. So it just takes that one person to reach and touch that, you know, allows you to kind of build something. And then when that happens, I feel like that's a little trigger there that makes you go, okay, maybe I am helping people. So I will continue. And as you say, we will continue. And the other thing you touched on there was passion, being passionate about whatever the topic is, or the subject, or maybe if you're going for that promotion, whatever that is, but being passionate about it is quite helpful. Yeah. But you did a TED Talk. Now, having spoken on stages before and been on podcasts and things like that, I definitely get the fear when I'm going up live. And it takes me, even when I first start talking with the microphone, and I'm pretty steady on the old hand holding a microphone these days, but you don't need to. But it takes me about 5 minutes to kind of get into my groove before I start to calm the farm and the heart rate slows down. What is it? Because you haven't done many TED Talks. It's just the one, right? I
think you only get a chance to do one unless you're uber famous.
One and done.
Yeah.
So what did you do? What sort of strategies did you put in place to make yourself feel extremely confident to get out of your comfort zone there and stand on a stage and present a talk?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so the request came through a photographic exhibition I hosted, and it was a solo show. The licensee of TED Talk came to my show, purchased one of the artworks, loved the story, invited me on email. I read the email, scared out of my wits, knew I didn't want to do it, wrote back yes, hit send before I talked myself out of it. Okay, so then I was committed and then I freaked out. Then I got underway learning how to become a speaker, and I doubled down. TED Talk gives you a coach, a speaking coach, for free. I got 2. I paid for an extra one. I downloaded workshops. I read books about speaking. I just really dug into it, and I was like, if I'm going to stand in front of 1,200 people plus have it online, I'm going to make sure I'm damn good. And so I took it seriously. I had to memorize the talk for 18 minutes, and that was really, really difficult. Probably the most difficult besides writing the script and writing the story. So I took 2 weeks off work before the lead up as well, so that I could really focus on memorizing. And then within that 2 weeks, I wasn't memorizing it well, and I freaked out, and I was about to pull out because I felt so emotionally that I couldn't go through with it.
Yep.
I was not able to stand on that stage. I wouldn't be able to memorize my lines. I wouldn't be able to perform. So I nearly pulled out. And then I just woke up the next day and kept going and tried again, and enlisted my friends' help and practiced and found new strategies to memorize the speech. So I guess it took a lot of work because I made it that way and I knew I wanted to do it well. I did also have so much fear around it. Like you said, standing on stage is a scary moment and you do shake, but they teach you lots of techniques about breathing, about shaking out your nerves, about dealing with your nerves, about using your body posture before you go on stage. So I gathered all the tactics I could. I just had this bucket load of tools that I was using to perform at the best I could. And what I learned about speaking on stage and having the fear means you care about what you're about to present. You can have the fear and you can still produce anyway. Just take the fear along with you, put it in the back seat and say, I'm going ahead, fear or no fear, here we go. And then sometimes the fear subsides. But for me, when I was on that stage, I felt like I belonged there. After about 10 minutes, I was like, damn, this feels good. And every time I've spoken since then for Nikon, for the portrait gallery, I have felt like I belong there. And I think I knew that that was coming in my 20s because I watched other people do it and secretly wished I was there. And then eventually became my path. And now that I feel those sensations of I belong in this room, I can leverage that and take it to new places.
Yes, I love that. Actually, the big thing that I took away, though, was back when you said, I built up so much emotion. This is before you even decided to continue. You took 2 weeks off work. You built up all this emotion. And I know because I've had to do a summit talk myself, which took the life out of me as well, all because of myself. Like we put this on ourselves, don't we? But you had the fear, you had built up all this emotion inside where you're this close to pulling out. You're like, absolutely not. I'm not doing this, because you are worried about what people are going to think about you as well. And it's your credibility. You've built this career for 20 years and now suddenly you're about to jump on stage for 18 minutes of your life. And if you fail, or what you perceive to be failure, have you just damaged that entire career and that credibility of what's, your soon to be future. So what was it though? What was it that made you go, no, I'm going to crack on and do this?
I think I thought I would regret it if I pulled out.
And in fact, probably more damaging.
Who knows? Maybe nobody cares if I pulled out, but I owed it to myself. And one of my highest values is personal accountability. So knowing that, I knew that the truth was going to be, I would turn up. I was just having my little tanty moment.
We all have those.
We all have it. And I had to have it. I had to cry. I cried so much. Even creating the story of the TED Talk, my coach helped me dig deep into my past. And yeah, tears came out and so much story, just geez. And then, yeah.
Do you know what though? You did tell a very good story, because I actually felt the emotion when you were talking about Chester.
Oh, yeah.
Like, please don't tell me he's going to, and I won't. Anyway, please don't tell me that's about to happen. And then it happened and I just sat there and like my little heart sank and I'm like, well, I don't want to listen anymore because, but I did. I continued, but like you definitely brought out that emotion. I think Dale Carnegie runs some really good stories on courses on storytelling and how important it is to kind of resonate with your audience and to be able to connect with them. And that was something you did very well.
I think thanks to my coaches. And people gave me so much feedback after that talk was released, and they did feel emotion for the horses. They felt emotion for my dad. They felt like my dad was in the room, and he was in the room in the live show. But when if they had watched it on YouTube, yeah, they felt the presence of my father. And, that talk wasn't about anything so, I don't know, deep and horrific like other TED Talks are, or anything spectacular, but it was my story and I had to share it in my way, and whatever importance that gave to other people, that was that.
I love that. So Grace, what sort of advice would you give someone that is, maybe just starting out, they're, starting a new journey, they're thinking, what's next for me? And am I good enough to start something new, by myself? Do I have the knowledge? Do I have the belonging, the following of people? What sort of advice would you give to those people that aren't sure?
Firstly, ask yourself, do you believe you have potential? If you have untapped potential inside of you, truly, you have to action it. There's only so many tomorrows. You have to take action on it. Secondly, I would say if you don't know how, educate yourself. Do a course, do a training, ask a friend, educate yourself, and take the next step. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be good enough. And then, people like yourself, Laurie, and myself have standards. So we sort of elevate anyway, but just keeping it grounded and say, look, you don't have to be the best right now. You will become the best if you keep working at it, but just get started.
And that is, something that Em said, the first speaker. She said, you just have to have 10% more knowledge than somebody else.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why I feel like I can mentor, because I think about the 20-year-old version of myself as a young photographer, and I wasn't surrounded by mentors. I didn't know that many working photographers. So I'm creating that education piece and that mentoring piece out there for those young photographers that didn't have anybody.
Mm-hmm.
For my younger self, to have the mentor, have the inspiration person to help them go through their photography journey. And I think that's why the podcast means so much to me, because I'm speaking to my younger self and I'm sharing all the knowledge to her and, lessons learned.
I love the way that you're thinking. I'm speaking to me. Hey, me, here's some advice for you. If this comes up, or if you're wanting to do this in, your space, then try these methods, or this is an incident or a circumstance that occurred. This is what I did. It didn't go down too well. So do not do that.
Yeah. And it's kind of like re-diarizing. You're putting it in a diary again, for your past self. But the fact that the actual interesting piece is I have now connected with my past self. She's exactly the age I was when I started in my defense role. And she's a photographer in the army as well. I wasn't uniformed, I was civilian, but she's starting her photography journey with the military background like I had. And now I'm getting to talk to her in all these little lessons. And I feel like the podcast is also talking to her because she's where I was at.
That must be quite an exciting kind of space to be in, to literally have that happening for you.
Yes, and she's in Canberra, so we meet up all the time, and I'm just willing to give her everything she wants to know.
How amazing.
Yeah.
Well, is there any final advice that you would like to give anyone here that is, facing, this imposter syndrome?
I think it's okay to have imposter syndrome. Just know that you're going to get through it, and you will find the tools to take you to the next step if you truly want to do something. If you're just sort of talking rubbish and you're pretending you want to do something, of course you're not going to go through with it, but and you're going to let that imposter syndrome beat you. But if it's true and you really want it, the imposter syndrome will find a way through, and you will find your tools. You'll find the people to help you. You will find the courage. You'll find everything you need to do it, because you're on the planet to get it done and to follow your passions. And those ideas and passions have come to you for a reason. So execute it.
Yeah, action, right? Yeah, I mean, the value of a mentor for me, like I've got Danielle as my mentor right now, and I love having a mentor. I think it's extremely important because it helps you, it gives you the courage. It's someone to bounce ideas off. She's been there. She's had an amazing career already in a space that I'm still learning about and developing. And, you learn so much from that. So the value of those people that you surround yourself are definitely a big piece of what's going to help you overcome imposter syndrome and take that step forward, right? Surrounding yourself with like-minded people and people that have proved that it can be done.
And also, if your family aren't those people, stop asking them. You know what I mean? You can still love them, but don't ask them. You need to source other people that are going to help you through the journey, external people that are in the game. Don't listen to people who aren't in the game, like Brené Brown says.
Love Brené Brown.
Yeah.
All right. So, we've had some really good, thanks Grace for coming on today and sharing your story. Tegan's put all your details in the chat, but we'll also send it out via email today too, so people can check out your website, your TED Talk, and maybe even use you for some branding photography, which would be amazing as well.
Would be.
Certainly was sorted this out, so thank you.
You were easy.
So the whole point of today was just to get a couple of really successful women on and highlight that, you know, we've all faced imposter syndrome before, and you're most likely going to face it again. But there's a few things that you can do to move forward and get past that. And that is things like surrounding yourself with people that have either been there before, want you to succeed, or in a similar space. Having passion about what you're doing and just knowing that it's okay to fail. And I think more importantly is if you have a purpose and a message, if you don't share it, it's the what if. That is what would probably give me more fear. Like you should share what you know so that you can help somebody else. You need to be disciplined and you need to take action. And finally, you need to be authentic. Not everyone will resonate with you, but some people will, and they're the people that you need to focus on. So we appreciate everybody coming today. And for those that couldn't make it, you're going to get these sent to you. I'm looking forward to what we're sharing with you for the next, I think, 6 weeks. We've got some really cool stuff coming out. You'll find out in a couple of days. But thank you very much for coming, and we will see you soon. Thanks, guys.